Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Vernette and I'm a chiropractor and certified Pilates instructor. I'm so super excited to kick off this prenatal series of Pilates Please for the pregnant body. I hope that these prenatal videos will provide you with short workouts that you can do from home throughout your entire pregnancy. For this workout, we're going to be on the mat doing some strengthening and mostly stretching exercises that are great during pregnancy, whether in your first trimester, second, or third. As always, please make sure that you have been cleared by your doctor before you start any program, including this one. So let's get started. We're going to come into child's pose. And as you transition throughout the poses, I want to make sure that you are mindful of your body because it is a different body every day. So we'll come into child's pose. So come to all fours first and then separate your knees a little bit wider than hip distance apart and then sit back towards your heels. Now it'll kind of depend on how big belly is as to how you're gonna separate your knees, but then walk your hands out and then just hold this pose. So I'm gonna tuck my chin into my chest and just hold there for about 3 breaths, okay? Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Let's do one more. Good. And then you're going to come back to all fours. Now from here, we'll transition from coming to a 4-point stance and then coming back into modified child's pose, okay? So you come back into child's pose and you're gonna walk your hands back, opening up your chest line, right? So a lot of times in pregnancy, we start to round forward in our shoulders, and then throughout just having baby, we're holding baby here. So we're in this forward posture that really shortens our chest muscles and doesn't allow us to strengthen our back muscles. So I want you to be able to open up your chest here. Good. Neck is either neutral or slightly extended. And then come back up. First neutral here. Arms round forward as you press your pelvis forward, just like that. Okay? So we'll kind of do this movement a few times, making sure that you're very aware of how your body is moving in space. At this point, I'm in my 3rd trimester, so I may move a little bit slower than the rest of you all, but honor the body that you have in front of you for that day because it's ever changing. So I think this is 3. Let's do 2 more. Opening up the chest, bringing the blades together. Good. Engaging your abdominals, which we'll talk about that in a minute. Draw your hips forward and then come back to the seated position here. And then lastly, we'll hold here. So when I say draw the hips forward, your knees are in line with your hips here, okay? And then bringing your ribs together and pressing them down, and then draw the belly button close to the spine. That'll help keep your engagement, okay? So now let's transition into a 4-point stance for cat and cow. So the palms are gonna be spread out. I like to have the palms, the middle finger kind of directly forward, so that way you're able to make sure that your palms aren't sticking out or they're in or doing some other funky stuff, right? So from here, we're gonna make sure the wrist is in line with the elbow, in line with the shoulders, that we're not leaning too far forward or too far back, okay? Then from there, my neck stays nice and neutral, so we're not bending or extending here in the neutral spine. As we go through the movement patterns, you'll see how my neck moves in alignment with the exercise. Then we make sure that our hips are in line with our knees and the knee is in line with the ankle. And you can either have flat feet or you can tuck the toes under. But right now we're just gonna do cat and cow. So let's just look at the articulation of our spine. So you wanna raise the middle back, separating your shoulder blades, tucking the chin into the chest. Really get a stretch there. And then work through the transition into cow. So as belly starts to grow, your cow may be a little bit modified here. But you can see that my neck goes into extension and my back is going to an extension as well. So I'm kind of living in that space just a little bit for the stretch. Curl the pelvis under, begin to tuck the chin into the chest, go back into cow. You're stretching out. And then transferring through neutral position into cow. Good, let's do 2 more from here. So my abdominals still stay connected and engaged, even through this stretch. And then this last one, I'm gonna find my neutral pelvis, my neutral spine. Okay. All right, so finishing the cow here, and I'll find where my neutral spine is. Now, when I have this conversation with my patients, and we talk about what is the neutral spine, the neutral spine typically has like a neck curve that kind of goes in this like slight S motion, right? So you have this a little bit of an extension, but it's not too much where the chin is coming up towards the ceiling. We definitely don't have this situation, right? So that's kind of that forward posture that we have in the society, right? From the things that we do. But it progresses through pregnancy because of the things that we will be doing with baby, right? So instead of jutting the neck forward or the chin forward, we wanna make sure we bring it back in neutral with our spine so that way our ear is directly over our shoulder, yes? And then as we travel down the thoracic spine, which is the middle back, it's kind of a neutral position, but then the lower back is what I wanna get into, right? So if we're in this cat-cow position, and I'm tilting my pelvis forward, right? I'm exaggerating this here, so hopefully you can see it, okay? So I'm exaggerating this anterior tilt. It's kind of like you have a bucket and you're pouring the bucket out of, or you're pouring the water out of the bucket, right? So you have this excessive pelvic tilt here. We don't want to necessarily live in this space, but we don't want to have an excessive posterior tilt either, where your pelvis is rocked backwards. We want to have that neutral spine. So the lower back, which we're getting into right now, is we're trying to figure out what that looks like. So that's why we go through the cat-cow position. So we find our neutral spine, and then from there we're going to go into bird dog, okay? So let's start, we're going to piece it together, okay? Because I like to make sure that you understand that we're going to maintain that neutral spine as we go through the position. So I'm going to keep my toes tucked under. Now from here, my neck stays long. I anchor my shoulders down, and I have kind of a neutral pelvis. So I'm not all the way forward, but then I'm not all the way tucked in. So let me find what that feels like. Okay, I think I'm there. Draw my ribs in, belly button to the spine. And then, as I said, we're going to piece it together. So I'm going to reach my arm forward. Just one arm at a time, one leg at a time here. Maintaining a neutral pelvis here. Then I'm going to extend my right leg, hopefully without too much shifting, right? So bring my knees in together just a little bit. Now from here, engage my powerhouse and extend my legs straight out with the lift, and then bring it back in. So I'm trying to maintain that neutral pelvis without shifting and then extending, right? So that's different than if I'm holding my center line, I'm nice and anchored, and I use my abdominals to control my leg movement, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's piece it together. We're extending the right, extend the left without movement of the spine, extend the right leg, and then extend the left leg without so much shifting. Now let's put it together. So I'm extending my right arm and my left leg at the same time. So I'm holding here. My arm doesn't need to be straight. My back doesn't need to be super straight, right? We're keeping that neutral pelvis. So my knee can be bent and my elbow can be bent. Come back to neutral. And don't forget to breathe, right? We always need that. I usually talk about breath work and how important that is to make sure that we're not reducing the amount of oxygen that we can get to our muscle tissues and to baby and to our brain, okay? So let's continue bird dog for 3 more sets. Here. So I'm really focusing on that neutral pelvis. Rather than just going through the movement, I'm very intentional about where my body awareness is. That's going to help with your balance and coordination as belly grows. Okay, that was 2, I believe. Let's do this last one on each side. So hopefully I want you to do 5 together. Okay, so that's the goal, to do 5 together. Good, come back to the 4-point stance. Open up the knees and sit back to child's pose. Rest your back. You want to round into your C curve, okay? Down here. Get a good stretch. At this point, my belly is like, where are you going to fit me? So just work within the body that you have, because like I said, it's ever changing. Okay, so let's go into the 4-point stance again. And this actually brings me to a really good point. If you feel like your wrists are kind of achy, because your body's going to get really achy throughout pregnancy, it's just the hormone changes, it'll be fine. You can come down to the elbows. So let's do this a few in modification, and then we'll come back up to the hands, okay? So all I'm going to do is extend my leg one at a time. So I'm in my 4-point stance. My toes are tucked under my ankles. And we'll start with the right side. Now lengthen the leg out, and you're just gonna do leg lifts here. So the leg lifts aren't gonna be the hyperextension here, right? We talked about maintaining a neutral spine. So you wanna lift the leg, make sure that it stays in line with the hip, and lower down. And lift, 2, and lower. 3, shoulders away from your ears, neck is nice and long. 4, and 5. So I'm gonna do it halfway modified, halfway full out, okay? So I stay lifted, I cross over without dropping the hip, right? Stay active. Cross over and come back neutral. 2, and neutral. 3. Let's do 2 more, 4, and 5. And then we're gonna hold with a small pulse, lifting up, 2, 3, 4, lower down, 5. Good. Bend the knees, sit back to the heels for child's pose. Come back to all 4s. Back down to the elbows, and we'll do the other side. So extend the legs straight out. Neck is neutral, so make sure we're not extending out here and we're not folded in here, right? We try to stay as neutral as possible. Gonna lift the leg and lower. Squeeze the glutes. Our glutes are a huge stabilizer that we really don't talk about or engage. So we wanna make sure that's engaged. I think this is 4 and 5. Stay lifted, crossover 1, crossover 2, crossover 3, and 4. Last cross, and then just pulsing up a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come back to the 4-point stance. Open up the knees and sit back to child's pose. Now from here, like I said, we'll do the full out version. So together you'll do 10. So wherever you are, whether you need the modification or you can start and maintain on your wrist, that's totally fine. So let's go ahead back over to the right side. We're gonna extend out. Neck is nice and neutral. Back is in a neutral spine. I'm gonna tuck my toe under just for balance for me. But you're gonna lift the leg up and lower down. When I lift my leg, I squeeze my glutes and lower rather than trying to lift from my back. 2, good, 3, 4, hold on 5, crossing over 1, tap 2, abdominals engaged, tap 3, good, tap 4, last one, you're gonna hold here and just pulse, lifting up, pulse, heel presses up towards the ceiling, 3, 4, and 5. Come back to neutral, go right over to the other side, extending out. And lift 1, lower, 2, 3, 4, don't forget to breathe, 5, crossing over 1, and I keep my foot flexed so that way I get a nice stretch in the back of my leg, 4, and 5, stay lifted on this one, lift up a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lower down and then sit back to the rest position or child's pose. Rest position is more active in Pilates, but because we're doing Pilates for the pregnant body, we give ourselves a little grace. Okay, so now from here, we're gonna transition into side plank. So as your belly starts to grow, you can have a support for the side of your belly, right? So for me, just for this workout today, you can see I'm kind of out of breath. That comes with the territory because I'm not really tired, I'm just out of breath. But what you can do is support your belly either with your hand, or you can have a pillow and just place it right underneath the side of your belly so that way it doesn't feel so heavy into the mat, okay? So come to a side lying position. We're gonna start on this side, then we'll transfer on the other. And be gentle as you go through your transition, right? So it may take you a little bit longer to get down to the side lying position. So we're here. I'm gonna stack my shoulders. Now what I like to do is come to a full lying position. If you're not as far along or if you're a little bit more fit, then you can come up to your elbow. Now, if you're coming up to your elbow, be mindful that we're not just chilling on a coffee break. That's what I say to my clients. I'm like, we're not on a coffee break. You're staying active, right? So you draw the shoulder away from your ear and anchor the shoulder blade in the back. You also want to lift the torso so that way you're engaging your external and internal and transverse abdominal muscles, okay? So this can be your position, that's totally fine, or you can be on the elbow but still stay lifted, or you can be fully lying, okay? So pick whatever modification works for you. I'm actually probably gonna stay a little bit lifted today, so we've got belly here. So stacking my shoulders, making sure that my hips are stacked as well. And then I can place my palm in front of me if I need to make sure that I'm a little bit more stable, right? So knees are gonna be bent, and we'll just start with the traditional side kick series, but with bent knees, okay? So what I'd like to do is separate my legs hip distance apart. See what that looks like. And again, this is probably good to do it in front of a mirror so you can see what your alignment looks like. So I press my palm into the mat, anchor my shoulder down. My neck is nice and long, hopefully. Okay, nice and stable. I'm gonna draw my knee forward. So typically, side kick series, you would draw your leg forward as a straight leg and then kick back, okay? But for modification, you bring your knee in and then lengthen backwards. And 2, and lengthen back. Now as we transition through here, you don't want to lean forward into the stretch, right? Keep that shoulder anchored. 3, and back. 4, and back. Squeeze the glute. And 5, come neutral, right? Then we open up our leg. Now you can do the straight leg with this one, but just shorten your range of motion, okay? Just be safe with baby down here and then some ligaments that may be a little bit less tighter these days because the hormone change is going to release some of the ligaments, so that way labor and delivery can be as smooth as possible, okay? So just limit your range of motion here where you're lifting and you're lowering, lifting out and lower. Oh, I feel in the glutes. 3, so we're only doing 5, 4, this last one, and 5. Go into your leg circles. So circle around 1, circle 2, circle 3, 4, and 5. Switch directions. Make sure that you're maintaining your pelvis and it's nice and still. Last one here, and then lower down. Draw your knee forward slightly, and then just get a stretch here. So trust me, you're gonna feel this one. No matter how far along you are in your pregnancy, you'll feel all of this area working in side kick series, okay? So let's go into inner thigh lift and lower. I still feel comfortable bringing my leg forward here and extending my leg, kind of how the traditional one is. But if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, then you can place your foot behind you and lift your leg from here. So you still have those two options. Just feel what's most comfortable, like I said, within your body, and we'll go from there. But I like to still have my leg here because I feel most comfortable in that position. So I'm gonna flex my foot. I'm not gonna draw it all the way back in line with my spine. I am gonna keep it at a diagonal because it's a safe range of motion. So I'm gonna lift my inner thigh and lower. My foot is flexed, lift and lower. Working your adductors, the inner thighs, drawing my shoulder blades down, trying to stay as active as possible. So we could do like 5 to 8. You can go up to 10, but not more than 10, okay? Now from here, I'm just gonna pulse up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold, and then lower everything down. Now we're gonna go ahead and change positions over to the other side. So be mindful as you go through your transition. When you're coming up, you wanna be mindful not to strain any of the muscles in your belly, right? Because your abdominals are expanding. There's a whole baby in there, or 2. I've got 2. As a gestational carrier, we decided on twins, so I have to really be mindful of how I move in my space, okay? So let's lower down onto the side lying position on the opposite side. We're gonna do the same thing. Of course, if I can remember in that order, right? So we're coming all the way down. Now I already showed you the modifications, right? So you can be all the way up here. Make sure the shoulder is away from your ear, that your neck is neutral, okay? Or you can come down to the floor all the way, making sure your neck is neutral. It's not down, it's not up, it's no other place than neutral, okay? Or you can come here, okay? So on this side, I'll start with the lying position, just so you can see what it looks like. So hopefully my neck stays neutral, right? And then from here, anchor my upper arm and palm right in front of my chest line, okay? Making sure my shoulders are stacked and my knees and my hips are stacked, okay? Now from here, separate the legs so they're hip distance apart. Draw the knee forward and draw back. And forward and back. So be mindful, right? We're not rocking in our pelvis forward and back. You want to stay connected the whole time. Or, like I said, you can come forward here and kick back. Just be mindful of your range of motion, okay? So I think that's about 5 there. So I'm gonna extend the leg and lift and lower down. And lift 2 and lower. Making sure I stay connected. I lost it just a bit. 3. Let's do 2 more. 2 and 1. Hold here for circles. Forward 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Reverse. Circle back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hold there. Bend the knee and then lower it slightly onto the ground. Okay? So you're getting a nice stretch inside of your glute. Okay? And the back side and the side about right here. Which is where your gluteus maximus is. Your medius is about here and your minimus is right here. So we're stretching all those muscles out. So let's face this direction. We'll be in a seated position. And from here, your knees will be slightly open. And we're gonna do a little bit of abdominal work, okay? So be mindful of your range of motion, right? What you can do is, as you progress through your pregnancy, you can lower back onto a pillow, so that way you have limited range of motion and know kind of where you are in space. So let's do this exercise and then we'll cool down for about a minute, okay? So the elbows are wide, my knees are wider than my tummy, okay? So I'm gonna tuck my chin into my chest. I'm gonna roll back until I feel engagement from my abdominal wall, and then I round forward, okay? Now, as you start with the first few, you can have more of an engaged grip, but as you start to kind of progress, your arms can come into a rounded position here, and then come up to a seated position, okay? So let's do 4 more from here. 4. stack your spine, sitting up nice and tall. 3, and lift. 2, rolling up, and 1. Good, and sitting up nice and tall. Now from here, place your hands back behind you, onto the elbows. We'll do, I lied, we're gonna do one more exercise. Okay, so we're gonna start here, and you're literally just gonna lift the leg and lower the leg. So 5 times here, lifting out of the shoulders. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bend the knee, extend the other leg out, lift up a 1. Good, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. Now from here, all we're gonna do, we did the child's pose in the beginning, so if you wanna do that in the end, that's fine. But I wanna do some lateral flexion, so I'm gonna bring my arm all the way up and over, rounding into the side of my body, then coming up, sitting up nice and tall, and then reverse. Reaching here. And sitting up nice and tall. Switch the legs, and you can do that 3 to 5 times. I'm gonna cup my ankle, lift up and over, round into that position. Try to keep your chest open. Sitting up nice and tall, and then reaching in opposition here. So the palm can be flat here. And then sitting up nice and tall. Take a deep breath, and we're finished. So remember that Pilates, for our goal in Pilates with pregnancy, is that we're not trying to be the fittest one, right? We want to make sure that we're as healthy and we're as active as possible in order to deliver a healthy baby. So until next time, stay strong and centered during your pregnancy with Pilates. Thanks so much, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. Go to aibtv.com/donate to support programming like this. Your contributions may be tax deductible.